Okay, good morning, everyone. This is the E91 Commission meeting, July 10th, 2026. It's 9 a.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We need to approve the minutes of the meeting of April 10th, 2026. So can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Well, Bob Guthrie, I'll make the motion.
Fred
Bob?
Dudek seconds.
Great, second. Are there any discussions on the minutes? Any corrections, discussions? Okay, hearing none. I'm just gonna ask if anybody wants to abstain, otherwise I'm gonna assume everybody just, goes with it. Is there any abstentions? Okay, so the minutes are approved. We'll go to public comment. Anyone have a public comment? Public comment, going twice. Okay, public comment going 3 times. Public comment. All right, we'll get to our reports and we're going to start with Land Mobile Radio.
Good morning, it's Scott Wright. I am the Senior Telecommunications Engineer with DSET, and part of my responsibilities is overseeing the Land Mobile Radio System as well as our deployable 911 equipment. I will be sharing my report for those that are online. I will also submit it in writing as well as the acronym finder at the end, as I have been doing for the last several reports, because that seems to work well.
And I appreciate that very
absolutely,
much.
Absolutely. Anything for you, ma'am. So moving on. For some statistics for the second quarter of 2026, system's been quite busy. Saw over almost 31 million push to talks, a lot of airtime. System continues to grow and get busier, and it's going to continue to get busier. We added 406 radios to the system. We changed about 1,449 aliases and made overall a little over 1,800 changes to radios on the system in the last quarter. We have a number of projects that keep us busy. Rather than go through each one individually, provide some high levels for each one. East Lyme, we worked with the town of East Lyme and worked with them on some funding opportunities, and East Lyme will be adding consoles to the system. They have started using the system for their police agency and have reported great success. So we're looking forward to working with East Lyme and getting the consoles online. That'll be a tremendous benefit for interop down in that area, considering that the Waterford system's coming online, New London's coming online. So that'll be a lot of great interop in the area. East Windsor and Windsor continues. They're building a subsystem up in the Windsor, East Windsor area. The equipment is shipping in. We're working on the new site in East Windsor. So that is a work in progress. Working with Electric Boat on their integration. Had a great meeting this past week with Electric Boat and their integrator. Continuing to work on an LMR LTE integration, the ability to use your LMR device on the, or your LTE device on the radio system is important for folks. Working with our partners at the Mohegan Tribal, with the casinos as well as the tribal land, doing a lot of work with the Mohegans. Our testing found some issues that needed to be resolved with their internal DAS, which is a distributed antenna system, or NBDA. So we've been working with them closely on that. Continuing to work with Motorola on their N50 product. Long history. We're 2.5+ years into working with them on that. QV, another regional dispatch center, has approached us, and we're working on some integration with them. That'll be a tremendous improvement up in the northeast corner, and we greatly appreciate Travis and Scott's work in that area. Waterford, as I talked about, Waterford is adding their subsystem, which is adding a number of sites, which is going to greatly improve coverage down in the Waterford area. particularly with the nuke plant and a couple other things down in Waterford, as well as a big shot in the arm for interoperability in the area. And we're continuing to work with Willimantic on their CSSI project, another regional dispatch center. One of the things that we worked on, that Clayton and I and some others, Bill Ewell, worked on along with our new consultant, spent a lot of time working on the maintenance agreement with Motorola. Took quite some time, a lot of back and forth. Our consultant has been key with this because they can provide some multi-state awareness and view into what's going on with that, and that was highly successful. We have a 1-year bridge agreement, and we are continuing to work towards a multi-year agreement. The multi-year agreement in the past has proven to save the state significant money. One of the things that Clayton and I have been working on is a bond request. We had a bond request in for a while. If you've ever worked with the bond commission, it's a process. It's been in the budget and it was approved a number of years ago. This bond request is for some coverage enhancement and life cycle costs, some spectrum monitoring. One of the things that we'll talk about later in my report is the impact of BDAs and DASs on the system and the amount of work that we have to put in to make sure that our users aren't negatively impacted by those systems. Some mobile asset lifecycle replacement. Some of our mobile deployable assets need to be replaced. They're 30 years old now, as well as some consulting. So it takes some time to get these things done. And there's a lot of work going on in the background for that. We continue to doing the firmware, software, and hardware tests. It's absolutely incredible what our team is able to find. We're working with a couple of manufacturers as we speak on some issues that we found that impact radios that would wind up in the hands of our first responders, and we want to discover them before the first responders do and before it impacts them. The last thing we want is a police officer, firefighter, EMT to have a problem in the field, and we find these things before they do, and that's a great thing. Just a reminder, for those that have Motorola stuff, if you send it out, make sure that it's noted to stay on what Motorola calls their baseline firmware and software. If you don't, it may come back and we may have a problem trying to integrate it. Motorola came up with a support announcement for those that have equipment in the field that certain models will no longer receive firmware updates, and I listed some of those out. If anybody has any questions on that, I'm happy to take that later. That has life cycle cost implications for a number of us, and we're looking at that. For our PSAPs, Plantronics / Poly / HP came up with an announcement about 2 years ago that they were discontinuing the bases and the connections for headsets. The headsets are still being sold, but the bases to connect those into console systems and telephone systems and those kinds of things were being sunset and no longer supported. There are still some out in the ecosystem that you can buy. However, the support is a question mark. I was at the NENA conference about a week and a half ago and reviewed some of the new products that are being offered, and we're waiting on Motorola as the predominant console manufacturer in the state as to which one Motorola is going to support. For those with Avtec has come up with and told us what is going to be supported in the future, so that's a good thing. And hopefully still sharing. Continuing education, our group continues to continue their education, attend conferences, participate in industry. We do a lot of things on both the local and the national level. Some of those, Motorola Summit, it's a huge conference encompassing all of the different Motorola products, as the Motorola portfolio has grown tremendously in the last couple of years. It includes things like Avtec, it includes some of their other offerings, and we came away with some great information like that. We participate in the TIA P25 group. As I mentioned, I was at the NENA conference about a week and a half ago. Great interaction there, learned a lot, saw some great products that we are using on routine basis here in the state. We're able to bring back some information. We have a couple that are coming up, both the APCO MTUG conference in August and the Central States Communications Exercise, which is the largest interoperable communications exercise in the country. Takes place in the center of the country, and we've been asked particularly to participate. As a direct result of our participation in the Motorola Summit exercise, for instance, we became aware of some potential beta testing opportunities. We brought that back, made it available to the AvTech users in the state for the regionals, and with our assistance, 2 of the regionals were picked by the manufacturer to, from a very competitive field, to participate in a beta test program, which is going to do nothing but help them out in the long run and help our other users out. So that's a great thing. We talked about BDAs, continuing source of irritation on my part. Takes a lot of time, both locally and nationally. If these things aren't done right, they create interference and impede our public safety responders from being able to talk. So we have to spend a lot of time on BDAs, and we have a number of them that are in process. Included some guidance. We're working on updating that guidance. It's a reminder for folks, if you're going to have one installed in your jurisdiction, they need whoever the FCC holder's approval to put them on your radio system, and that includes the state. These things are complicated. We got a couple of deployments going on. One of them is going on as we speak up in Salisbury. If you've never been to Salisbury, it's a great little place to visit up in the northwest corner. We have our team supporting the NASCAR event up in Salisbury this weekend. They started bright and early this morning. They had a briefing at 7 o'clock in the morning. We've been up there the last day or so setting up, and I've included some pictures of our crew and some of the stuff that they're doing to support that event for everyone that's up there. Police, fire, EMS. We're also supporting the NASCAR safety folks this year, which is a change from last year. This is our second year doing this, and there's a lot of effort that goes into that. Couple more pictures of what we're doing up there. Great time. Our team greatly enjoys interacting with everybody that's up there, and it's a great opportunity to work on things. And we're working with LCD, who's the regional dispatch center up in that area, for events and things that go on. A couple other current deployments. The rest of the team is down working on Celebrate New London, big event down in the New London Groton area this weekend. And next weekend is the Deep River Ancient Muster, which has been expanded because of the 250th celebration. A couple other deployments. Darien and Wethersfield are coming up with some modifications to their PSAPs. Some recent stuff, just a list of some of the things that we've been involved in the last couple of months. Busy. We participated in the Travelers GHO for the first time, and we expect next year that will expand. Some of the other stuff that we do on a regular basis, including the storm response for July 4th. We were out supporting that and USAR with the days afterward. Some of our 911, NG911 related work, continuing to work with Peter and Viper 7 with the laptop deployment, and continuing with a mobile recording solution for NG911 that can be deployable, and making some progress there. Just a reminder for folks that our legacy DESP microwave TDM circuits are being sunset in June of 27. If the regional dispatch centers or the towns are still using those, there's still some time to plan and implement it. But it's time for those to go away. Somewhat related, for those that may still have, for our dispatch community that may still be using copper circuits, those are also being retired. So if you're still using those in your dispatch system, really start thinking about doing some investigation of moving to an IP-based, whether it be terrestrial, microwave, lease circuit, whatever. Check with your service provider as to when those are going to go away. A little AI generated map of where that's happening, and that is accelerating in the area. The copper stuff is very expensive to maintain. The service providers get a lot more bang for their buck by providing an IP pipe. So they're moving to that. Cybersecurity is huge for PSAPs, and will continue to be, and it's going to evolve. PSAPs need to be very aware of cybersecurity and do everything they can to be cyber aware. A couple of high level things: maintain cyber vigilance and awareness, ensure that everybody has education. The telecommunicators are the tip of the spear on this, and know the warning signs. Some of the things that we've seen recently in the last year and a half here in the state were picked up by telecommunicators seeing some unusual activity and not being afraid of saying at 2 o'clock in the morning, something's going wrong, there's something different, we got to do something. Have cyber monitoring service. It's not cheap, but we've got to do it. Ensure your firmware is up to date on your computers and your firewalls and routers and that kind of thing. And think about some endpoint protection on your devices. As required, our division provides some frequency coordination for public safety agencies in Connecticut. We are frequency advisors for one of the certified public safety coordination groups. We do a lot of work in this space. We take consulting with people asking questions. We encourage folks to ask questions before they submit an application. Currently working on a large one for the Capital Region Chiefs of Police. And we also represent the region and the state on the regional planning committees for 700 and 800 megahertz. Tied in with that, radio has no boundaries. For those that are familiar with radio, something that goes in Long Island can easily get into the state of Connecticut, stuff in Massachusetts, stuff in New York, Rhode Island. So to that end, we administer an email reflector. If somebody lights up one of these interoperability channels you hear about stocks, you hear about vCall, UCall, 8Call, 8TAC. We administer a reflector that is used throughout the Northeast to ensure that we don't create interference with each other, and that's worked out great. Include some important email addresses if people have questions, problems, some email addresses for contacts, reminder about problem reporting, call the Network Control Center. They're there for our PSAPs and our users. Include their phone number. They're there 24/7, 365. They're great people, and we have a great system. So if you have a problem, please report it immediately. Don't wait. Oh, that happened at midnight and we wanted to wait till day shift. No, they're there 24/7 and we have people on call. We want to know about these things so we can get in and take care of them if we need to. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions for Scott? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
DSET project update.
Good morning. Thank you,
Oh.
everyone. My name is Stanley Dombrowski. I provide oversight and comprehensive technical analysis of the state of Connecticut's NG 911 program, ensuring execution of initiatives managed by Director Northgraves. Viper 7 features and changes. The primary reason for upgrading the call handling application was to improve the Windows operating system version being run on all consoles and ancillary equipment, as well as extend the operating system lifespan well into 2032. A recent service pack upgrade has allowed for the potential to test and deploy new features, like voice transcription and translation. This feature would leverage near real-time voice language interpretation and two-way on-screen transcription. Dispatchers I have spoken to have expressed great interest in this capability. Next one, while all Viper 7 PSAPs already can run CallGate to block unwanted calls from any number, PSAPs will now have the capability to fence off those calls geographically by creating a boundary area on the SCC mapping application. Geofencing to CallGate adds the ability to define a location perimeter that will then gate incoming calls to a specific call route. The geofencing feature may be used to define virtual boundaries around specific geographic areas. If an incoming call falls within a configured geographic area, CallGate sends it to the configured route. When it is identified that calls are coming from a specific geographic area and the PSAP wishes to triage those incoming calls, a supervisor can go into Power 911 CallGate configuration and configure a CallGate rule that has XY coordinates as well as a radius. Once configured, all calls within that radius will be sent to the selected call route. The configuration also includes a timer option, which sets the time for which the call gating will expire, and calls within that area will once again be handled by the normal route. Geofence areas can also be defined ahead of time for activation when needed. This would be set up prior to a UConn football game to include calls coming from the game or for an intersection with common traffic accidents. The supervisor can quickly see CallGate rules and which ones are active or rules that are inactive. Rules can be enabled and disabled. Audit history will store the time it was last modified, by who, time it was last enabled, and time it was last disabled. The supervisor can record a voice message, for example. If you are calling about the accident on 91 southbound by the Capitol area, we have units en route. If you have more information, please press 1 or stay on the line to be connected to a 911 operator. Otherwise, you may hang up. This can keep dispatchers free to answer other unrelated emergency calls as efficiently as possible. 911 cybersecurity. Uninterrupted use of the network and the 911 applications running on it is critical to always provide emergency services to all callers. Cybersecurity company Secular is being evaluated by leadership for its product inclusion in the 911 data stream. This technology monitors data utilization within the network and alerts for changes and unusual activity throughout the network should they occur. This technology is deployed throughout the country at various PSAPs and has proven to be an effective addition to conventional ways currently in use, and most importantly, doesn't violate any vendor-approved software terms of use of their applications. SCC mapping, I took some time to observe a random sampling of dispatchers answering calls, and in all cases, they ask where the emergency is located and look at the mapping screen for confirmation of where the caller is located. Updated mapping layers like street views and topology overviews work to provide as much clarity as needed for the dispatcher and the first responders heading to the scene. Multimedia. Multimedia has never been available before within the state's 911 applications. Again, talking with first responders, I determined that sometimes knowing what you're heading into by seeing something can add a degree of safety for the responder and the caller, not previously offered. Responses seemingly can be tailored to safely provide services desperately needed at a time when seconds matters most. The dispatcher can receive blurred content, but stream live video to a first responder for a look-ahead view of the incident. Rapid deploy eclipse reporting and analytics. Refresher training dates have been received at all PSAPs to coincide with the Viper 7 call handling upgrade activities. Reporting can become one of those things that aren't practiced often enough and can become challenging when needed most. This instructor-led training will keep you updated on the most current reports and data collection methods so that you can get what you need quickly and efficiently. The NCC, as always, the state of Connecticut NCC is your first line of defense for when things go wrong within the 911 system. Report all issues as they occur, even if they are occurring repeatedly. This new call handling upgrade and continued evolution relies on many third-party vendor applications that make reporting problems critical in understanding what's broken and how to fix it. With that, are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Stanley, can you figure out how I block my calls from all of the loans I'm getting?
Clayton, can we do that?
I'll let you know. Yeah, I wish. I get,
When you figure
seems
that
to be a
part
big
out.
uptick in
No.
those calls.
Yeah.
I love a
Any
challenge.
questions for Stanley?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stanley.
You're welcome.
We have Viper 7 deployment update.
Morning, everybody. I'm Peter Mann. I'm a senior project manager responsible for the Viper 7 upgrade for the state of Connecticut. I'll be sharing my slide deck. Let me just take care of that right now. All right, this is a very familiar slide deck from the past presentations you've seen. So basically, this is a slide with a program overview. Basically, it's what's called a forklift upgrade, which is a full, complete hardware, software, as if it's almost like a brand new install. That's the level of complication with doing a very large upgrade like this, is that it's a complete upgrade. We're replacing, upgrading the current redundant 3-host solution to a single host solution. Placement and upgrade of 103 PSAPs with new software, hardware, object server monitors, keyboards, mouse, etc. Pre-upgrade data capture process to ensure a like-for-like transition, which is very important. Finding out how the PSAPs work, because they all are individual unto themselves, making sure that it's cared for so that when we do the upgrade, they have exactly or as close to possible what they had before. Makes it a smooth and seamless transition. And that is one of the things we are really pushing on to make sure that our partners, AT&T and Trado, are caring for. We do a lot of testing up front once the system has been built. And of course, we provide system administration, dispatch training in front of their actual upgrade date. Typically, that is the week before. That way, the training is fresh for all the dispatchers and admins, as opposed to doing it weeks in advance. It always proves to be better. I've broken this down before. The project breaks out into sort of phases. So, stakeholder identification. Then you create a communication plan, make sure everybody understands how they should function, how they should communicate, and update people as they progress through the project, or program, I should say. You create a project plan, or a project schedule, as it's also known, which breaks down to 3 major phases. There's the planning phase, which we've already completed, post-installation, which is to get the main cores up and running, and then you start your PSAP deployments. We typically do 2 site upgrades per week, Tuesday and Thursday. For the larger 8 most complex PSAPs in the state, we'll be doing those singularly. They will be the only upgrade that week, so that way we can focus on just that site and no other sites. So everybody is fully focused on the one complex site that we'll be doing. In addition to all of the support, training, everything in advance, we also provide first day of support for all the PSAPs. AT&T and Intrado are on site at the PSAPs the day after we do the upgrade, to ensure that anything through the overnight, any other issues that came up through the overnight, can be cared for, as well as provide additional training support if somebody has questions. First day of business support is always very critical in the success of a cutover, to make sure that, everybody is fully supported in that effort, and that they feel comfortable working with the new tool. Our current end date is projected and on track for full completion at the end of the second quarter of 27. Current status. So mostly the things that are important, that are different from past slides are the stuff in gray, which is, we're currently 46% complete in the overall program. 43 PSAPs containing 125 positions have been upgraded. We've done a successful network data switch upgrade. We've executed a new security patch. And currently we're in a planned site deployment freeze because I think, Stan sort of alluded to, we're involved in doing a major service pack on the Viper 7 system. That requires us to go to all of the PSAPs that have been upgraded already, work on some stuff locally, and then finally do the upgrade or the service patch upgrade at the cores. That is all scheduled to be completed by the end of this month. And then the new site deployments will start going forward again. Any questions?
Okay.
One question, this is John Benedetto. Last quarter, it was mentioned 104 PSAPs. In this quarter, it's 103 total. So
I'll take that. We had a consolidation. So really happy to announce that Fairfield and Westport were a multi-town center, and they merged with Easton. So they created another regional center in the state. So we're down to 103 now.
Okay.
And before I retire, I'd like to be under 100.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? All righty, thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Nice report. Okay, Network Control Center.
So unfortunately, Julie Gatson, our Network Control Center manager, she's having some issues this morning. And so we are going to be submitting that report after the meeting to the commission members.
Okay, great. Legislation.
Good morning. Thank you. If you can bear with me, I'm going to provide a little context and a little history lesson about the surcharge, because that is what we're hoping for next year. We're hoping we can propose legislation to get the surcharge cap raised. But for a little context, I think it's important to know that DSET relies on the 911 funds, the surcharge for remittances, for all of its 911 activities. 100% of that funding goes to our budget and the activities that we have, the services that we provide, both internally for staff and externally for subsidies, grants, etc. So when to establish the surcharge rate, we submit our budget to PURA. They take our budget, they look at the most current access line rates, and that's how they establish the most current rate. That rate goes up and down by year, depending on those two figures. And we in DSET are very careful. We are never in a position where we're at a use it or lose it. And if you look at our history over the past few years, just over the last 4 years, it's gone from 68 to 73 to 69 to 74. We're very careful. We're good stewards with funds. We pride ourselves on that. And there is a state requirement to comply with the FCC requirements. 911 funds are considered very sacred. They have to be used for emergency communications, and the governor must certify each year that there is no diversion of funds. We have been audited, luckily only once, and we were able to get through the audit and pass it. We just needed to provide additional funds. So you'll often hear me talk about how sacred those funds are and how protective we are, and we are for that purpose. When it comes to the surcharge cap, the surcharge rate was actually set in 1994, and it was set at that time at 50 cents. The cap was set at 50 cents. It stayed at that rate until 2012. We proposed legislation to increase the surcharge cap to 99 cents. It took us years to get to that point in 2012, where it was raised. They denied the 99 cents, but they approved 75 cents. So from 2012 to current day 2026, we have been at a 75-cent surcharge cap. Our current rate for this year's fiscal year budget, which is just it's 1.2 million over last year. We are at 74 cents. So we're 1 cent away from the cap. And again, not knowing what the budget's going to look like next year, and knowing, we do the best we can to be consistent, and to be really protective of those funds. The piece we don't know is access lines. We know they were much lower this year. So that's why the rate, we believe, it is higher. So we are going to propose, or hope to propose, a cap increase this year. And we will keep you posted as to where that goes. But I just wanted to give a little bit of a history lesson, because 3 different rates over this entire time is certainly not a lot to ask for. And I should also note that we have one of the lowest rates in the country. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. Any questions about either our budget or how the surcharge rate works or is set?
Do you know what you're going to ask for as a cap?
I do not. I would hope it'd be a minimum of 99 cents. I suspect we'll go higher, and maybe have to settle. Clayton, do you have any information on that?
Yeah. So we were going to ask for $1.50. So that's our plan.
Wow.
What is the range of rates across the country?
That is a great question. So it varies across the country. A lot of the rates are collected in other states by county level. But just as an example, so our coworker, Mr. Mascadrelli, lives in Massachusetts, and you pay a surcharge of?
We have 2 surcharges. They're each $1.50, so $3 combined.
$3, right. So we have looked at rates around, and we are still much lower than most of the other state surcharges. We're very happy about that. And so, but I can provide the commission, we have done extensive research on this, and I think it would be easier for me to just provide you the documentation that we put together, and that would explain, what it looks like across the country versus what we're asking for. We can absolutely provide that.
Yeah,
Great.
or we can provide where you can find it. It is public information. It should be noted too that Massachusetts was not able to confirm, because of some expenditures, they opted not to confirm diversion of funds, which makes them ineligible for federal grants. So there's much involved in protecting the funds and using them the way they were intended.
And is there any actions that you need from the commission to support or to do anything with this ask?
That's a great question. I imagine that's going to be a big yes, but we don't have that information now. So we'll continue to follow this closely. And when we get to that point, we'll reach out. Thank you for that, Ralph.
Okay.
If I could also suggest that when it's set, that we go to the Council of Small Towns and the Connecticut Conference of Municipality and ask for their supports. And I'd be glad to liaise that when it's set.
Great, thank you. I speak for the entire division when I say we greatly appreciate that support. This is really important. We're so close, and much of what we do is mandated by regulations, all the subsidies, grants, the services. We have a few things, some of our CapEx grants, transition grants that are based on eligibility of funds, but 99% of what we do is required. So we could conceivably be in a very difficult position.
Okay. Well, thank you for the history lesson. That was important, I think. So appreciate that. Okay. Any other questions for Carrie? All right. Then we'll move on to PSAP grants.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. In the fourth and final quarter of the 2025-2026 state fiscal year, 4 regional emergency communication centers, being Talon County, Litchfield County, Valley Shore, and Northwest, as well as 2 municipal PSAPs, being New Haven and West Haven, were approved for capital expense grant funding totaling $450,463. This funding supports emergency telecommunications through the purchase of IT infrastructure replacements, information technology equipment, radio systems, 911 center renovations, public safety dispatch, furniture consoles, as well as simulcast base stations. The total capital expense grant funding for this fiscal year was almost $1.3 million. The new 2026-2027 capital expense grant cycle began at the top of this month on July 1st, and applications will be accepted through April 30th, 2027. We have added an updated capital expense grant application to our website, and it includes several significant improvements that we hope applicants will find beneficial. And with that, I will conclude my report unless there are any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
PSAP training.
Good morning, Mark Gorka, planning specialist for DSET. DSET hosted 2 dispatcher training sessions facilitated by Public Safety Group and on the topic of critical incidents, total disaster response. The course was developed and delivered by Tony Harrison, who spent a significant portion of the afternoon going over his personal experience as the shift supervisor during the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City in 1995, which was the deadliest act of homegrown terrorism in the U.S. history. Other topics included threat assessments, preparing yourself, preparing your agency, terrorism, disaster response, call handling during large-scale incidents, case studies, and lessons learned. In an effort to align with our commissioner's focus on domestic violence awareness, a portion of the training covered handling domestic violence calls. An emphasis was made on the truths and myths associated with domestic abuse, and attendees learned effective ways to handle domestic abuse calls and gained an awareness of the cycle of violence and cultural issues that affect those involved. And that concludes my report.
Right. Questions for Mark?
I just want to add a couple notes to this. It should be noted that this training that Mark's been working on over the past couple of years goes above and beyond. It's completely provided and funded by DSET and is separate from all the PSAP training funds, which we provide to all the PSAPs. I have to give a shout out to Mark for thinking outside the box and always trying to think of ways that we can enhance training and do more. So kudos to him for that. And I want to make mention of the training that we provided for multimedia and the impact it has, whether it's liability, stress, direct impact on telecommunicators, is unique. And Tony Harrison right now is the only person sort of in that environment, the training environment specific to 911 calls and emergency communications. He's the only person doing this training. So I did check with our peers across the states. Nobody else is putting this forth in front of their dispatchers. So kudos to the team for working on this. I think it's really important. It may be somewhat basic, maybe some of it's common sense, but we felt really strongly that we needed to address these issues because there is much more involved. And we know from the stories we're hearing, there's can be significant PTSD, other issues involved with some of these calls. So I'm super happy that we were able to find somebody to provide the training, and that we are one of the first states that's really looking at the emotional impact and what this does, and provide more than just the technical training, which is mostly what most states are doing. So just another shout out to Mark and the team for working on that.
Yeah, I think that's important. Thank you, Carrie. And thank you, Mark, for what you're doing. I was trying to send you an applause, but I guess I'm not technically savvy. It's not coming across, so apologize for that. But I do think it's good work, and thank you. Okay, I think we go to telecom cert training.
Good morning, Peter Luco from DSET. I take care of the 3-day telecommunicator class for new dispatchers. So for this year, 26, so far we've had 6 of these telecommunicator classes. We've trained 107 new dispatchers. We hope to have at least 4 more classes this year. We do have the ability to schedule more if needed. These classes are held here at CSEC in the classroom at the Police Academy of Meredith. And so far this year, we certified 76 new dispatchers, acquired their certification. We've recertified approximately like 180 dispatchers. It's a 5-year certificate, so every 5 years you recertify. So far, 180 recertified. And it's my report. Any questions?
Questions?
I have a note I want to add about the, sorry, Terry's got another note. I would like to add that the Viper 7 training that we are currently providing for the dispatchers, state police dispatch and the troopers is a different animal. There are situations change depending on needs, resources, etc. So who they determine is going to be certified to dispatch as far as the trooper side varies a lot. And it could be hundreds or thousands of people that need to get trained in addition to the dispatchers, which we care for. So after much puts and takes and wringing of hands, we opted to get a few select folks from the state police dispatch pool who were interested and are already providing training to the troopers. We decided with them to get them to do train the trainer through Intrado ATT on Viper 7. This way, when they get these large groups of troopers that need to be trained, it doesn't put a monkey wrench into our schedule for the upgrade of Viper 7, which is already very complicated. So this is the first time this has been done. It was done a couple of weeks ago. It was 2-day training. The first day was the training. Second day, those who were trained were expected then to present and train other people. So I think this is a great thing for us to be able to provide. And it's our hope that if we get in a jam, we'd be able to send somebody from one of our PSAPs to their training if need be. So it's just another resource, another way to kind of cover ourselves for training.
Yeah, that sounds like a good backup. Good job. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, then we're gonna go to PSDN.
Good morning, my name is John Mascadrelli. I am a telecommunications engineer with DSET, and I'll provide the Public Safety Data Network Governance Board meeting update. So the PSDN Governance Board voted on and approved the following 5 PSDN applications during the April and June meetings. During the April meeting, the following applications were approved. The town of Ridgefield extended their public safety P25 radio network to the Ridgefield Fire Department's headquarters to support an additional P25 radio console site. CTS requested a circuit on the PSDN to support their deployment of a emergency response vehicle at Mohegan Sun, which Scott spoke about earlier. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner requested use of the PSDN for sharing and dissemination of data to the state's forensics lab and law enforcement systems. During the June meeting, the following applications were approved. Troop H provided a backup network connection for the state's microwave system to support the Connecticut Land Mobile Radio Network. And Manchester PD requested a circuit between Manchester PD and Box Fountain Tower site. The circuit will be used to support public safety two-way radio communications for police and fire services. Now I'll provide the PSDN application status report update. So to date, 248 PSDN requests submitted to the PSDN Governance Board are in the pre-approval stage or have been approved and are operating on the PSDN. 233 of those requests have been reviewed and voted on by the board. All 233 requests have been approved to operate on the PSDN. To date, there are 227 requests operating on the PSDN. There are 7 additional requests awaiting an implementation date or in the process of being implemented, and the remaining requests are in various stages of the connection process. Does anybody have any questions? Hearing none. My portion.
Thanks, John. All right, geographic information systems.
Hello, this is Dan Chaya. I'm the GIS mapping coordinator for the 911 system, and I'm going to do the GIS mapping report for the commission. First thing I wanted to show was, if you can see my screen, it's probably pretty tiny, but we have the map of the public safety answering points for the state, and I just wanted to show you down in the corner. There's a big red boundary now. That is the new boundary for the Fairfield County with Easton. So that's what we were talking about earlier. That's the new boundary for the entire PSAP. We continue to, as soon as I get my mouse to work, thank you very much, continue to do updates to the 911 mapping data. We've done some street updates. We've done a whole bunch of address point updates. I was pleasantly surprised when I queried my data. We had done that much over the last 3 months. Continue to have a very good match rate with our 911 database. It's still at 99.66% of all the 911, of all the mappable records in the database, where we are at that level, which is nice. We continue to update the Master Street address guide for the 911 system. We're up at 4831 update requests so far. Continue to support the agency with GIS data for the state police and mapping for the other parts of the agency. One interesting of note that I threw in here was that Homeland Security is hiring a GIS coordinator for their efforts. It's going to be a full-time person, and they're going to assist the DSET side too, but it's going to be a big thing. Sometime in the next couple of months, I guess. I'm not sure, but that's going to be nice. We continue to support the CT alert system with updates of the 911 database for their efforts. In fact, I just sent one yesterday to them. And last but not least for now, and then I'm going to switch over to Alfredo Guerrera, the GIO for the state of Connecticut. We continue with the 2026 aerial imagery. If you can see my screen over on the on the right side, there's a big map of Connecticut, and that is the actual imagery from April 2026. So that's going to be what we get for the state soon. It's probably Alfredo will tell us more, but I just wanted to show it to you. So I wanted to do a little preview of the preview of the information, and this is supported by federal grants along with DOT and us to get this data for the state. But I will give it to Alfredo, and we just switch it over.
Thanks, Dan. So yes, we've been doing a lot of shepherding of the vendor that is doing the imagery. It also includes elevation data, as well as building footprints, and things like that, as well as 3D buildings. We're getting a lot of information. We have all of the stuff from 2023 already done and dusted. Lost the slide there, Dan.
So yeah, I know, I'm trying to fix it. Sorry. I'm trying to make it better so it's not ridiculous. There we go. How's that?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
We are expecting a pilot delivery of the LiDAR data in particular. So that'll include, as you see there, the actual point cloud, like what you see there on the bottom left of the Yale Bowl. That's actually a super sneak preview of the 26 data. So as you can see, the resolution's through the roof. You can see people playing sports on the field while they were flying. So the amount of information that we're going to be getting from this is kind of crazy. We'll have the DEMs, or the digital elevation models. We're also getting a product that kind of highlights the difference between the 2023 data and the 2026 data, so that we can see all of the places that changed in that time. And that's going to be a really, really useful bit of information. And then some of the other things are the intensity raster, or how eagerly did that laser return back to the sensor after it was fired at the ground. And then the 2D building footprint, so we will see any changes that happened. The area that was selected was in the Wilton-Norwalk area, right there on the border. So if you want to go to the next slide. Dan, can you go to the next slide, please?
Yeah, it's not letting me go for some. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Okay, cool. As you see, with the orthos, we are not yet getting the full resolution sample in the pilot data. We are expecting all of that today, actually. But we are getting what they call quick views, which are kind of like limited resolution versions of these. So we are getting 2 pilots of that one. The reason we asked for 2 on this one is because the 2 parts of the state were flown in kind of segmented pieces, if you will. Like they got a really early flying window early in the season, like right there in March. And as you can see, pretty much from Middletown south, it looks pretty brown. And then as you see from there up, and going north, it looks a little bit greener. And so we asked for a second pilot in that kind of what we called the green band, just to make sure that we understand what we're going to be seeing, because they did get to flying pretty late into April and early May. So I wanted to make sure that how green is it going to be? I mean, obviously it's too late to do anything about it now, because you definitely can't capture that imagery now. But I just wanted to kind of highlight that that's why we're doing 2. And then that's why you're seeing kind of what you're seeing in this image of there's a lot of segmentation that's just showing each plane's flight and each mission kind of stitched together in a very kind of not haphazard, but just in a very raw way. So this will all get harmonized and it all looks super nice and even and kind of all be colored about the same. The block down there in the bottom left of the state is about roughly where the pilot for the LiDAR data is going to be, and then the call out shows where the pilot for that second more green imagery example is. It's near the University of Hartford campus. Just for context. So we do expect that to come to us, like the actual pilot data. We do expect it in the next couple of weeks. They just asked for more time near the end of the month, but I said like, okay, yeah, but like you need to try a little bit harder to get sooner. So that's kind of where we are with with all of the imagery and elevation data. Dan, if you can go to the next slide. Also, can you proceed one more just so that we get the animation going? Okay, thank you. So we did also produce a document for that acts as guidance for state agencies for how best to collect address information when they're going about their business, and talking about like social services gathering addresses from people, DMV, all of these other agencies that collect addresses as part of whatever it is that they're doing. One of the things that we were seeing in the GIS office is that the way this information was collected was very much all over the place. It was very uneven, and it put a lot of extra kind of effort and lowered the level of accuracy on the back end when anybody tried to do anything with that information. So we wrote this guidance. You can find it there if you want to peruse it. It's kind of technical, but also kind of not. It's all very logical, like where we want to make sure that like we discuss all of the different kind of address types for like location addresses versus mailing addresses, and making sure that we say this is the preferred way of doing it. We did follow the NINA standard to a point, but we also tried to, acknowledge that not everybody needs to go quite that quote unquote hard to solve that problem. So we have some recommendations in there where you can split up the addresses in the same way that the NINA standard does, or you can just have it all in one field, but it needs to be complete and well formatted. So this is our attempt to kind of help that. And part of the reason that we're undergoing this effort is because one of the things that we're doing while working with Dan is we're trying to improve that address data set that he manages and curates and turn it into what we're calling the master address data set, and really find, because one of the things that we discovered is that if we pull in all of those other lists of addresses that exist at other state agencies, we can find addresses that we may not have been aware of, and then that might give us a better idea of how to target those for kind of validation and verification, so then we can add them into the pile. So one of our goals here is to kind of try and get this done by the end of this year, predominantly so that we can get this data communicated to the Census Bureau for ahead of the LUCA, local update of census addresses program. So if we can do that, then that LUCA process for the state of Connecticut becomes a lot simpler and a lot easier, and it becomes a lot more kind of targeted around like, oh, what addresses does town A know that are coming in the next 3 years? By the time the census happens, people will be living there, but that place doesn't exist yet. It can become that kind of exercise as opposed to like, why are there 20 addresses in Avon that didn't exist or were off the voting rolls for 20 years. So we're trying to solve that problem, and we've been working with the UConn School of Data Science to kind of come up with processes to really kind of shore up and complete the addresses to kind of, and as you can all imagine, this has knock-on effects on like the emergency preparedness and the data that goes into the PSAPs and stuff like that. So that 99.6%, we could potentially start expecting like something in the neighborhood of 99.8, 99.9. And that's the kind of thing that we're hoping for. Next slide, please. We have been, we also have just completed the parcel and camera submission from every town. So that data set is also in the process of getting completed. And one of the things that we're emphasizing is that the match rate between the assessor's data set and then the parcels that we are submitted that match rate needs to improve. And as you can see from some of those rough numbers and by COG, those numbers have improved thanks to the grants that we provided to the COGs and the towns to improve this data. We found about 2,000 condos that were never digitized, and they've digitized them and included them now in the data set. So that is a big deal. And they're getting all of that work done, and the data is definitely improving. And one of the nice things is that this year we have received parcels and CAMA from 168 out of 169 towns. Unfortunately, Heartland is still working on it, but they are indeed working on it. So we will eventually get that data and we will hit 100% compliance for this year. And then one thing to note about this process going forward is that there was a statute that passed this year that moves the collection date from May 1st to September 1st. And then it gives the COGs 1 month less. So instead of 2 months to kind of compile and process the data, they have 1 month. So in October 1st, that data is due from them to us. So the towns have to submit to the COGs by September 1st, and then the COGs have to submit to us by October 1st. And then that should slightly change obviously the timing of when the statewide data set gets completed. But the other effect that's going to have is it's also going to help improve the match rate because all of the vendors and the GIS staff will have had enough time to process the changes that happen in the assessor's database and digitize it so that then the digitized parcels will agree more closely and be synchronized better with the assessor's database. So that's going to be a really big improvement. It was a legislation that we in the GIS office proposed through IGPP in partnership with IGPP at OPM. And we're happy to say that it passed, and I think this is going to actually help the quality of the data in the end. Next slide, please. So I just want to call out a couple of new data sets that we have produced recently that may or may not be useful. So we've produced a steep slopes data set that divides, that took the elevation data, and we divided up everything between 10 to 15% slope, 15 to 20% slope, and 20% plus, and kind of called it out. The real party piece of this data, as I call it, is the fact that we cut it all by town and COG, and we put those names in there. So you can say, if you are interested in just the data for Farmington, you can say town equals Farmington, and you only see that data for Farmington, and you don't have to look at the entire rest of the state just to find that little bit of information that you're looking for, which saves a lot of time on the kind of the GIS professional and the analyst end. Additionally, we do have a viewer that is on our new housing hub, because one of the other things that we've been working on this year is producing some guidance and some tools for the COGs and the towns to do developable land inventories. So there, a lot of these data sets here were produced to support that. So we have a data set, which is a subset of the parcel that depicts every parcel in the state that is owned by either a local, state, or federal agency, as well as kind of others when we couldn't kind of figure out where it fell into, like, regional water authorities are a really good example of those. So they're all symbolized. You can click on them and find out who owns what and see the pattern across the state. It's really interesting stuff. We also produced a similar thing with the vacant parcels, and while it's not quite out yet, we are also working on an open space parcels data set as well. These are all subsets of the parcels themselves. So as the parcels get updated, these downstream products will also kind of come along with the updated geometry, so they should kind of stay relevant going forward. And then the last slide, please. So those were the data sets. So that's like, for the analysts and the technicians that do that kind of work. We made some map viewers to make this data much more accessible. It is all on our housing data hub and on the geodata portal, but you can find these viewers at housing.ct.gov. I'm sorry, not housing, housingmaps.ct.gov. I'll put that in the chat here momentarily. And then you can see the gallery of these applications. I will say my team did some technical wizardry to make these maps possible, and I encourage all of you to check them out. And I think that's all I have.
That's great. Any questions? Questions for Alfredo or Daniel? Okay, thank you. Emergency notification systems.
So it's Clayton. Unfortunately, Kevin isn't able to attend this morning, so we will be sending you his report electronically.
Okay. PSDN refresh.
Hey, Ralph. Hi, everyone. This is Chuck Fuller.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi. I'm going to go off the cuff because my notes, I guess I didn't save and I may have X'd it out, but it's fine. Let me just start with something I haven't discussed in a while with the board here, PSTN. And, you know, its infancy when we first built it out, you know, between 2010, 12, we built the public safety data network with 6 home ring locations statewide, which handled 112 locations. At the time, I think it was 107 PSAPs, and the other 5 were like EOC, the Do It Best network branch of it, and you know, several other significant locations. After that, we added a couple of years later, BTOP portion of the PSTN, which went out to the regionals and municipalities and local towns. That being said, in its infancy, the PSTN had no applications. Our statewide 911 and collect NCIC were stovepipe connections onto themselves. We weren't an IP solution at the time, and the PSTN provided that IP solution, resiliency, and the ability to transfer locations that were completely down in no time immediately without picking up dispatchers and moving them from A to B. That being said, like all networks, PSTN, original PSTN, which was a Cisco platform, reached end of life. And around 2020, we're in the midst of doing our forklift of not only the PSTN, but the BTOP portion I mentioned, which brought us up to about 550 locations at the time. Very significant when you're forklifting, and not only forklifting, but transitioning from an active network to a new active network. As you all know, we went from a Cisco platform to a Juniper platform. But those hurdles we had, you know, during that time from 2020 on was COVID. After COVID, it was a supply chain issue. After we went out to the POCs to see what the different vendors' offers were for our complex network, we came back with the proposal to go with Juniper, and then we got kind of held up, you know, being as vigilant as we can. The state wanted to make sure a third party came in and confirmed our choice. So all these delays had some significant factor on us building out the new Juniper platform. To date, and as I mentioned in April, we have successfully migrated all of our locations onto the new Juniper platform. I think in April, we had mentioned that our 12 CPS troop locations. We're not done yet because we had some software issues where we needed to upgrade routers. That process was done. All of the troops are on the new Juniper platform. We are currently in the midst of dismantling our phase 2 locations. One thing I probably didn't mention was to build out this network, the critical piece was to maintain production for all 500 plus locations around the state. So we built a side-by-side network. While the Cisco platform was still primary, we built out the Juniper platform side by side so that we can migrate applications onto it one at a time, or as we done the NG 911 and then collect and radio and all the other applications that a lot of the folks prior to me discussed, because PSTN is statewide and it's our primary network. That being said, all of those things have taken place. We migrated over to Juniper. We have a couple of significant sites that are yet done. The Meriden campus, which is where our forensic lab is, we're in the midst of moving that over. And there are a couple other things that we're tweaking. As with any network, there are certain things and complications. This is not a cookie cut or Cox solution when you're talking about an intricate network like we have with the resiliency and routing and all that other stuff. When you're talking about 500 plus locations, there's nothing out of the box that you can do, and there's not one network anywhere, corporation, state, that runs the same. So you can't build a network like that. All that being said, we are in a stage where we're doing a lot of patches. You find things that aren't working as they're supposed to, but a lot of it is not effective to the network or our users. We see what needs to be done, and working with our partner Juniper, they take care of patches or new releases and software upgrades as we go. Those type of things are going to be a process, just like it was with the first PSTN network. So again, kind of working off the cuff here. The Meriden campus again will be next, and as we continue to dismantle our phase 2 portion of the network, once Meriden campus and a couple other things are taken care of with some of the new software releases, we will start tearing down the original phase 1 ring Cisco portion of the network. And that will be it. But just wanted to kind of give you the history, as we've been talking about this for some time. And again, from 2020 till now, we've had a great team, our state team, as well as our vendor partners in this whole collaboration. And thanks to Clayton and his flexibility with all of this, we managed to get it done. Any questions on the PSTN refresh?
Any questions for Chuck? Okay, thank you.
Great. I'll just go, Ralph, with the next one, the PSAP up.
PSAP? Yep.
Yes. We pretty much do anywhere from 3 to 5 actually forklifts of PSAPs that move their critical infrastructure, whether it's building a new facilities or moving it within the facilities. We have a couple that are on, the ready to be done. I know I spoke last time about Meriden PD, and they're still in the midst of just moving from 50 West Main Street to 32, but I think this is going to be pushed out till 2027. We thought we'd possibly get that done in the end of 26, but it's going to be pushed out to 2027. There have been some internal moves. Branford PD has.
And you mute yourself, please, if you're not speaking.
Branford, thank you, Ralph. Branford PD had an internal move and that was completed. We have some phase 2 portions of the network. Madison Fire is just moving internal PSTN DMARC to a second floor server room. Middletown Fire is also looking to possibly relocate. And I'm sure there'll be others, that are coming up in the future. But as I stated, these PSAP moves are coordinated as we have been building out the new Juniper platform, and they've been successful in being able to move these locations without affecting the migration of the Juniper PSTN. And I guess that's all I can say off the top of my head. Again, sorry for losing my report, but if there's any questions, if not, that's it.
Okay, great, thanks. Any questions at all? Okay. Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. You guys have been pretty busy. So busy they can't come today.
Oh, John Hartenbaum, I
Ralph,
thought
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Then.
All right. So let's see. Got a whole list of stuff here. One, Director Turner is back on paternity leave. He'll be back at the end of August. We're interviewing the new Region 3 coordinator, hopefully in about 2 weeks. And hopefully someone will be on board September at the latest. There were meetings about a new deputy commissioner for Demis. Not entirely sure what the timeframe is for that, but hopefully that's also something by the end of August or September. Our federal grants are processing, that's EMPG and Homeland, so project should be coming through. As I'm talking with PSAPs, so some different equipment that could be available if people are requesting for different events. With some election security dollars to theoretically protect election security sites, but that can be used elsewhere at different events. We have Meridian vehicle barricades. Pretty much if you're trying to protect a roadway from people from any sort of vehicular strike, you'll be able to do so. They are available. We gave them to CSP as they already had a set, and it's easier for them to deploy than it is for us. But if you need them, call the message center or call Demis, your regional coordinator, and we can get you those barricades. They're used at Travelers Championship. They're currently up at Lime Rock, and they're also down in New London for Celebrate New London. Cross-border mutual aid. So for any of the bordering towns with New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, it is a regular thing that if they call 911 and they need mutual aid, they'll call for a town that's not necessarily in Connecticut. That's fine if it's just your standard MOU, MOA, a piece of apparatus to come help you with a structure fire or a medical call or something like that. If you start getting into more technical stuff like calling for search and rescue teams or comms equipment or hazmat teams, that turns into a state-to-state agreement, and you have to start including the emergency management departments from the neighboring states and the state of Connecticut with Demis. That would be the Emergency Management Assistance Compact. The key for that one is that you have to declare a state of emergency. So if it's not a statewide thing, we're probably not declaring a state of emergency. Then we have IEMAC, which is the International Emergency Management Assistance Compact. It's the 6 New England states, plus some provinces within Quebec. That is available. You do not have to declare a state of emergency, but that still requires a state to state, from state emergency management director to state emergency management director conversation. There's a lot of paperwork associated with it, and there is cost associated with it. So if you're looking for specific assets or specialty resources, please reach out to your Demis coordinator, and we can try and figure out what is within state. And if it's not within state, we'll work with our neighboring states to get that equipment to you. But the longer that takes, the longer the process takes. Communications wise, NAWAS 2.0 has been set up in Middletown. It's not going to go live until later this year. We're working with the AT&T on the SCOC as well. That's going to be the fed to state, not state to state. Obviously, the conversation before, they're getting rid of copper and the copper circuits, which means that state to state NAWAS is going to stop working as well. So hopefully we can find some sort of replacement to that, either utilizing a federal system or finding something within CLMRN to do that. We've deployed our Starlinks to a lot of different events. They went to Travelers. We were giving them to Deep to utilize for one of their trainings that was out in the woods. There's Starlinks that are currently operational up at Lime Rock. So they're all over the place. So if anybody has a need for a major event, an internet or some sort of incident, we do have Starlinks available. And then just, I'll mention the recovery process for up in Litchfield County on the comm side. We're getting a lot of reports of cell phone towers are down, and basically the cell phone towers are down because the fiber cuts, a lot of that is turning into a Frontier issue, and they're waiting on Frontier to repair some of the fiber lines. So while some of the towers may go up, some go down while they're making these cuts. But yeah, so that's all I have for Demis right now.
I think that's quite enough, Jonathan, but thank you.
Yeah.
Questions for Jonathan? Nothing? Okay, then we go to FirstNet.
So unfortunately, Bruce Fitzgerald from the FirstNet Authority was not able to join us. Jonathan, I don't have anything FirstNet related. I don't know if you do, Jonathan Hartenbaum.
The only thing is FirstNet did come out and they did some sort of survey, they did a survey of the Lime Rock Park area to try and bolster communication services that for everybody that was up there. There was one small hiccup this morning where the colt or cow that they had was registered in Baltimore and was sending 911 calls to Baltimore, but that was quickly rectified. I don't know if I was supposed to share that, but I did.
Jonathan, if you didn't, I was going to, because I got that same report from our crew that's up there and that it was rectified.
Yep.
Okay, any questions for Jonathan? Okay, so next is Department of Public Health. That would be me. So we have completed our 2025 annual report. It is online, and I will also put it into the chat. As you may know, this is purpose of the report is to meet the requirements of a Connecticut General Statute, and it requires all licensed and certified EMS services that transport patients to collect and submit electronic data to OEMS, and this is also supported by E911 funds. So at the end of 2025, there were 175 agencies. There was 8 different vendors that they used to report that. And together they submitted almost 960,000 electronic patient care reports to the state registry. I will, once I post it and you can look at it, we do have a whole PowerPoint presentation on what the report is, and that's been given to the advisory board for EMS. And if you're interested in having the same report be given to here, I will be glad to ask our data manager to come and do that. So that's all I have to report for the Department of Public Health, unless someone has any questions for me. Then we'll go to 988.
Good morning, everyone. Dana Began, Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. There isn't a lot new to report related to 988. United Way continues to meet all KPI metrics and meet or exceed all of the KPI metrics for voice calls, text, and chat. The only item that I will note is that there the notice of funding opportunity recently came out for the next round of 3 years of federal funding from the Health and Human Service Organization. It is a formula-based grant where Connecticut is allocated around 2.4 million in federal funding to be able to put towards 988. So we are in the process of preparing our application for that. That application is due on the 17th. And so the funding will start the next federal fiscal year, which is October 1. So that is what we're working on at this point in time. Again, the grant is 3 years of federal funding at about 2.4 million each year. So that's in process. Other than that, I don't really have any other updates. 988 is functioning well. Any questions, comments, feedback? Happy to answer any.
Thanks. Questions? Okay, so we are now this. Does anybody have this to bring in front of the commission? Hearing no one, I am going to go to public comment. So public comment 1, public comment 2, public comment 3, no public comment. And then can I have a motion to adjourn?
Just before you adjourn, Assessor, I just want to thank you for chairing the meeting and apologize. I was having iPad problems. I'm finishing up living in a trailer while my foundation's being replaced, and I don't think the iPad liked the metal. So I thank you for your great job chairing the meeting, and again, apologies.
It happens to all of us, John. No worries. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Benedetto to adjourn.
Okay, you guys mumbled over each other, so I didn't hear who was first.
Fred Dudek.
Okay, Fred. And then second?
John.
John. Okay, great. All in favor? Well, thank you, everybody. Enjoy your weekend and stay safe and be well.
Nice job, Ralph.
Thank you all.
Thanks.